our first order of business will be a briefing on Seattle City Light's energy plans. Mary Bourguignon will give us the staff report.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and I will just very briefly set the context for you and then introduce our team from Seattle City Light. The obvious question many of you may be asking is, why is Seattle City Light briefing the King County Council? And the answer to that can be found in a map that you both have in full color at your places and can be found in black and white on page 7 of your packets that shows the transmission distribution system in East King County. You'll see on the map Lake Washington on the left, Lake Sammamish in the middle, and then ringing Lake Sammamish and stretching throughout East King County, a series of transmission corridors that are operated by different utilities. You'll see in purple on the far right of the map the existing bulk power lines that are 230 kilovolt lines. The Bonneville Power Administration, or BPA lines, in red down at the south end of the map or the bottom of the map. The existing Puget Sound Energy transmission line, which is in blue, just a little bit to the west of Lake Sammamish. Very close to that and running parallel, Seattle City Lights corridor, which is in gold, and then just slightly west of that, and the subject of a recent briefing you had from Puget Sound Energy, the proposed route alternatives for the new transmission lines that Puget Sound Energy is proposing. This creates a network of current and then future proposed transmission lines throughout East King County. And because Puget Sound Energy's proposed transmission lines both have been the subject of quite a bit of public discussion recently and coincide in some areas with county-owned areas of the East Side Rail Corridor, one of the questions that has come up is there any possibility for Puget Sound Energy and Seattle City Light to co-locate within the Seattle City Light transmission corridor? And that is what our guests are here to talk to us about today. So with that, I will introduce Uzma Sadiq, who is a Principal System Planning Engineer, Tuan Tran, who is the Director of Engineering, and Phil West with Customer Service and Energy Delivery from Seattle City Light, and turn it over to them for the presentation.
Well, let me just first of all say thank you very much for coming. It's the first time that we've had an opportunity to meet you. Hopefully it's not the last. We thank you for all the good work that you're doing. And as Mary said, one of the prime reasons that we've invited you here today is this council is very interested in economic development. And one of the things that we have to do for economic development is, gosh, to provide power. And there's a huge growth spurt that we're looking at in terms of population as well as business relocations. And we want to make sure that we've got the adequate infrastructure to support that kind of economic development. So we did have a similar presentation from Puget Sound Energy, and some of us said, well, gosh, I wonder what Seattle City Light is doing. So there we have it. And with that, whoever chooses to go first may do so, and then we'll entertain some comments and questions at the end. Thank you very much.
Why don't I start? And I'm Phil West with City Light. And so we're here to talk about our transmission system a little bit, some of the growth that's going on in the downtown and South Lake Union area and even Ballard, and also why it's critical that we keep our transmission line we have on the east side now. And so that's kind of what we're here for.
Perfect.
So we'd like to start off and just give you a little bit of background about Seattle City Light. We're an electric utility that serves Seattle and 7 suburban cities around Seattle. Our service area has a population of about 776,000 people. Let's see. Our service area is 131 square miles. We have 15 major substations, about 650 miles of transmission system, and about 2,500 miles of distribution lines. That includes overhead and underground. And we serve about 420,000 customers here in the Seattle metropolitan area. So this is a map that shows our various resources. In particular, I'd like to just point out where Ross, Diablo Gorge, and Boundary Dams are. You can see that Seattle City Light generates its power on the Skagit and Pend Oreille rivers. So what's happening in Seattle? Well, we've got a lot of construction. Most of our construction is concentrated, large construction projects are concentrated in South Lake Union, Capitol Hill, the University District, and the Ballard neighborhood. I just went out, took some pictures. We counted about 30 cranes in Seattle. Largest area of growth right now is the South Lake Union area and the Denny Triangle area. There are 15 cranes there. Large developments by Amazon. They're putting in their 3 large headquarter buildings, University of Washington and Touchstone. So this is a map that our folks who connect electric service have been using. And the red shows projects that are in planning or permitting. The yellow shows projects that are in construction. And the green shows projects that have been redeveloped. So if you remember what South Lake Union used to look like, that's kind of what redeveloped is from that change. And in order to serve all of this growth, Seattle City Light is installing a new substation called Denny. So here are just some pictures. I was the photographer, so if you see a lack of quality in the photography.
Quite the opposite.
So I just circled the cranes. I was just trying to kind of show what does it look like. These were taken on 428. In Capitol Hill, you can see there's just mixed-use development, residential, commercial, University District. Again, 4 cranes out there, mixed use, people living there. The university has been rebuilding their dorms, so that's part of, I believe that might be a dorm. And then in Ballard, this was kind of interesting. I was up on that hill and I was looking down, and there are these 2 big cranes. And what's happening in Ballard, of course, is that the single-family homes and the existing commercial there is being redeveloped. So that's part of the city's goals for densification, I believe. So that tells you a little bit about what's happening as far as growth goes in Seattle. And now we'd like to take an opportunity to talk about the East Side lines. These are 230 kV. It's a double circuit. It runs about 25 miles from Snow King Substation to Maple Valley Substation. They were originally constructed in the late 30s, early 40s. And if you remember that slide that I showed earlier with the generation way up at the Skagit, this brought Skagit generation to the service area, to the Seattle City Light service area. So that was their original purpose, way back when. So these Seattle City Light lines, why do we need them? We need them for connectivity and capacity. We want to maintain our contiguous POD, or point of delivery. It's a requirement that BPA has. We serve our existing City Light load, and we use it to maintain our existing reliability. We also want to provide for future City Light growth. We also use it for regional transmission flows and to meet our NERC reliability requirements. So that gives you a sense of Seattle City Light needs these lines. That's my last slide. Thank you.
Okay. Any questions? That's it?
Thanks.
Okay. Well, thank you very much. Would you like to say a little bit about how you're working with Puget Sound Energy as they're working through their growth provision opportunities, or not?
So I'll try it a little bit. I'm not sure of the exact question, but we do use a calming planning group, Columbia Grid, to plan all the regional issues around transmission and energy flows, and so we're part of that. And it's BPA, PSE, Avista, and I'm missing one other utility.
It's PSC, Seattle City Light, Snowpud, Tacoma, Chelan, Grant, and Avista.
So we all came together and formed an organization just to be a central planning so that it would keep us all connected together with BPA and each other. So there just isn't local load issues that are going on, but there's also load flow and how we move load through the whole system from the north to south, particularly at times when we're transferring power through the provisions of the treaty back into Canada. So we do work together to address those issues.
So what do you see as your major challenges over the next several decades in providing power?
So I think our major challenge, we don't have the same growth as PSC and some of the other utilities. So our biggest concern, one of them, is getting power to the local load centers. So it's either the Denny Triangle, South Lake Union. It's going to take us years to build that out to really support all the growth that's happening in that specific area. And at the same time, make sure that we can get the power we need through the regional system.
And what mix of power or what mix of sources do you use? Do you use wind power? Do you use a hydro?
We're 90% hydro, and that's either through our own Skagit or the Boundary facilities or from BPA, and we have a few smaller plants. And then the other 10% roughly is probably about 5 renewable and about 5% would be nuclear out of one of the BPA's plants.
Any plans for expanding that mix?
Yeah, I think as an industry, we're all trying to figure out how to add green to the system, whether it's wind or photovoltaics. And then we're also all very focused on energy efficiency, trying to make it so we don't need as much power and don't have to build out as much.
Other questions? Thank you very much. Oh, Councilmember Lambert.
Thank you. I just wanted to ask you, we were looking today at a building in Seattle that has solar panels on the whole building top, and it's a commercial building, 6 floors tall, and they produce all their own electricity for that building. So since most of us don't need 6 floors tall of energy, we have grandkids that provide a lot of it. How soon do you think it will be till there's some kind of grants in your community to encourage private citizens to put some solar panels on their house?
So I think there's a couple answers. One, I believe there is a state credit, and I'm not directly responsible for renewables. And so through the state credits, you can put it on your power, and they give you a rebate at the end of the year for part of that price. And then we have a program called Community Solar, where we actually sell shares in the solar plant to our customers, and then we'll put it in a park or something to cover a table, those types of things.
That's interesting. Thank you.
Okay. Well, thank you for taking the time out of your busy day to come and further enlighten us about Seattle City Light and your plans for the future. And thank you for being so collaborative and working with other agencies to bring power to the Northwest. Thank you. And you're quite the photographer.